New neighborhood.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the October 17th, 2023 meeting of the Litchfield Planning Board. Would you all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I'll do the roll call of members. Michael Crotto, Chair.
Kate Stevens, Vice Chair.
Jared O'Connell, member. Sam Terrell, member. Jeremy Robitaille, member.
Okay. Kim Queenan just emailed me and texted me. She is not going to be able to make this meeting tonight. I guess she has another commitment with the Board of Selectmen. So, the first item is public input on non-agenda items, items not on the agenda for this evening. Is there any members of the public that wish to comment on non-agenda items? Okay. Seeing none, I will close public input on non-agenda items, and I will go to an application at 255 Dairy Road LLC, tax map 2 lot 8 at 255 Dairy Road. Parcel is 80 acres in Litchfield, 10 acres in Hudson. Litchfield parcel is in the Highway Commercial District with a multifamily residential overlay district. Proposal is for 172 two-bedroom multifamily units and 30 buildings. It is anticipated the project will be phased over a 4-year period. The project will contain private roads. This application was accepted by the Planning Board on July 18, 2023. It was continued on September 19, 2023, and I have the applicant present this evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I enjoyed seeing the Halloween lights driving in up 3A. Looked nice. For the record, my name is Jim Petropoulos. I'm a professional engineer at Hayner Swanson Inc., 3 Congress Street in Ashwood, New Hampshire, tonight representing 255 Dairy Road LLC. Rick Charbonneau is, of course, the owner. Rick is with us this evening, as well as Morgan Hollis, our project attorney. And as you just read into the record, Mr. Chairman, we're seeking site plan approval on an 80-acre site on Dairy Road in the southeast corner of Litchfield. This is our third public hearing for the project. July 18, we did a full, complete presentation of the development. We came back in September of 19th for a project update, and that evening we told you that we still had yet to hear from the New Hampshire Department of Transportation, DOT, relative to the traffic study that we had submitted way back in the early part of June of 2023. That evening, Mr. Chair, we also gave you an update on what we call kind of the other matters of the project that were outstanding at the time. Lou Caron's comments, and I believe we have in the record that with regard to site and drainage, Lou has been satisfied. Similar, subject to a couple dot the i's and cross the t's within RPC's site plan review. Sans traffic. We've obtained a number of state permits. Our New Hampshire DES wetlands permit, you recall we had 3 wetland impact areas for the development. Just today we received a letter from the Army Corps of Engineers indicating that the project is compliant with the general permit, and so that's always a good thing. We have 1 more state permit pending. It's our alteration of terrain permit. We believe it's imminent. We've satisfied all their stormwater and erosion control questions. They're simply seeking a nod from Fish and Game. DES permitting has become a little bit more challenging over the past few years, and so they're seeking intra-agency approval before they give us the sign-off, but we expect to have that next week. As you know, we're a small portion of the project in the very eastern half. 10 acres are located in Hudson. We've been through their plan review process, and we're currently scheduled for a planning board sometime next month. In advance of tonight's meeting, we spoke to Jay, just to kind of get an overview of how we thought the meeting might go. And we kind of agreed with Jay's overview that there's really kind of three kind of outstanding items really to discuss with the board. And so I thought it would be a good idea maybe to address each of those concerns. And then at the end of our presentation, we'll be glad to answer any questions you might have. If you saw Jay's report, a couple minor dot the I cross the T items, but one of the items he brings up is water, seeking a letter, a will serve letter, we call it, a utility clearance letter from Pennachuck Waterworks. We know there's a 12-inch line located just north of the site in Dairy Road, and of course, as we described, the plan is to extend it. It's in front of Deco, the auto shop, to extend it southerly for a small portion, and then cut cross-country through the lobster boat site, connect into our site where the cursor is, and then distribute both domestic and fire protection throughout our project from that location. I apologize for not having that letter sooner, but we will get it. I've had numerous discussions with Pennachuck. There is not a problem with water. As everybody in Litchfield knows, there's ample supply of water, and most of the town has been serviced in the past 5 to 10 years. Hudson did raise a concern about water. If there is a fire, what does it do, that demand, what does it do to the rest of the Hudson system? And so they asked us to commission a small water study. That's been done with the town's consultant, and it's being reviewed by their town engineer. We hope to get a copy of it, but we're not expecting anything critical to come of that. So long story short, with regard to this issue, I will move forward and obtain a will serve letter from Pennachuck Waterworks. The second issue that Jay brought forward is a little bit more detail on emergency access. As previously stated, when we first met with the fire department on this project, one of the first comments they asked us if we would consider trying to explore finding second means of access. We know Hudson is to the east, and there were not many opportunities to the south because of wetlands. And of course, as you know, there's no requirement in your site plan regulations about length of cul-de-sac or second means of access. So he was asking us to do our best to try to explore that. It only made good sense. We didn't disagree with that. Rick has reached out to the property owner at the lobster boat site and has got really a verbal understanding that that there could be a gated connection at that location. We certainly have represented that on our plan. And it's our understanding that the owner of that site is currently exploring development opportunities in the back of the lobster boat property. We actually got a copy of a concept plan that they did that does show them meeting in our location that particular spot for gated access. I don't know if you've got a copy. Joan, you had mentioned that you were meeting with that team?
Right, and they were trying to see how many dwellings they could get, and they talked about leaving the access there.
Okay, so our testimony, Mr. Chairman, is that just short of having an executed document, an easement document between these two parties, we believe there's a verbal agreement that we'll do our thing on our side, and they'll match into it at some point to provide that second means of access that the fire department was seeking. And that's where we're at with that particular issue. The third issue has to do with traffic. Sitting here this evening, there is no word yet from the DOT, despite our inquiries. Needless to say, it's been frustrating. We submitted in the first part of June. And you might recall what we submitted was a formal study by a professional traffic consultant. And in it, they did counts of the existing roadway, the anticipated trips from this project, they look at site distance, and they actually came up with a plan, a conceptual plan, showing safe haven for a left turn pocket as you're traveling southbound on Dairy Road, for vehicles to feel safe to pull into a pocket and then make a left into our project. And of course, the tapers on the south side of that intersection would be there. That road is New Hampshire DOT, and despite what we would like to see or what you may want to see out there, it's likely going to be a DOT decision. And so in preparing for this evening, we started thinking, well, that stretch of road, how it turns out, we don't know this evening, but we do know it won't affect really our project. It won't affect the interior of our project. Would it affect the intersection with our road? We've tried to match the current driveway that BAE has used for many years. We think that's the proper place for this site driveway. So I don't believe it will affect the interior of our project. And so what we'd like to do is maybe have you consider this evening that, given that it is a DOT decision, that maybe there's a possibility we could discuss a conditional permit or a conditional approval of the plan subject to DOT. And then lastly, Mr. Chairman, in our presentation, I want to bring forward one kind of new issue, and I'm not even sure I've discussed this with Jay yet, but when we're ready to take action on the project, we'd like the board to consider a condition that would allow site work on the project to commence in advance of the actual signing and recording of the plan. And the reason we're asking for that is generally after a permit is, an approval is granted, it's usually subject to several conditions. There's always a little bit of time needed to satisfy conditions. I don't think there's going to be anything super outstanding here other than the DOT permit. Rick will tell you this evening that he's anxious to get started on some of the interior work. For a residential project like this, there's an incredible amount of site preparation needed, tree clearing, earthwork, road construction. And we would like to consider a condition that could allow Rick to break ground interior, not touch the front door, not touch the front entrance, because it already exists. We have the benefit of that driveway in advance of signing and recording. I don't know if Litchfield's done that before. We've seen other communities do it. One last thing about that is that, because we have to go to Hudson, we need both towns to both approve it and both towns to sign the plan and both towns to go through the 30-day appeal period. And once you start doing that, we're going to end up, in the mid-deep of winter. So we would hope you would take that under consideration during the discussion this evening. So, Mr. Chairman, that's what I really had. I don't know, Rick or Morgan, if there's anything else you'd like to add to that?
So the area that we would like to start in is this here, so we wouldn't touch this entrance. We'd come in here and start building this so that we can tie our water in here. So get this portion of the roads built. Well, we're not gonna get them paved, but at least we need quite a bit of fill to be trucked in and things like that. And if we get it now, we can do it instead of trying to do it in January and have approval. And we get to keep employees busy and working, that otherwise, we need to do that if we can. So we'd like to, no, we don't need building permits, we just need to do site work, is what we'd like to, once we have our site-specific permit, be able to start working. We know it's at our own risk, not, it's totally up to us. It's all our own, we're doing our own work, it's our own construction company, everything about it. So we wouldn't be in no building permits until, not that we won't come back at some point and say, we want building permits, but no occupancy permit until we get the DOT, because we just don't know where that's gonna go. And we're willing to take that risk. I mean, it's not, I don't think there's any liability to the town one bit. We can do Morgan can do an agreement, whatever it is. I mean, we're responsible, it's ours. And I think that in the last 45 years that I've developed in this town, I think I have a track record that proves that. We do what we say and always done that and more, so.
Yeah, and we would, if I may add, Rick, I mean, clearly, post any action by the board, we would take care of any minor outstanding issues, whether it's bonding or whatever those issues are in terms of setting up pre-construction meetings, anything like that. It isn't as if we would start the very next day. You know, but it's that time period of working through the appeals in two towns that I think is a little bit unique here.
Well, we have regional impact, so that's, makes it a little different.
I have a question. Would you just be working on that top loop road, just for phasing, what would you do?
Probably from here, we don't wanna touch this, cause we don't know what's gonna happen there,
Right.
so from here, cause this is a paved road now, we can go in and out and it won't bother us. But if we start right here, we gotta demo these foundations and build our road so that, because our water main is gonna come in this way. I mean, we don't have a written agreement, but I'm bringing the water through their project at no cost to them. So, I mean, it's gonna happen. One way or the other, they want the water, so we're gonna come through there once their engineers, their engineers are just so far behind us. But, so the water's gonna come in this way and tie in, so it's important to build this piece of the road first.
So then you would bond any open areas, it would be,
Bond the whole thing, I don't care. Tell me how much you want for bond, I'll give it to you.
well, just a reclamation bond for open
Yeah,
areas?
it's bonding's that's whatever it is, I don't care what the bond is.
Okay.
Make it any amount you want.
Okay.
But that was my point, Joan, that we wouldn't ask this with a ton of loose ends, you know, we would
Well,
tighten it up as best we could.
here's my thing, gentlemen. It sounds like there's no issues or concerns with density. We talked about the wetland impacts. I don't think that's a concern. And I think Mr. Karen has basically been satisfied with the drainage calculations that were submitted. Is that my understanding?
Drainage, yes.
Okay. But you're right, the outstanding issue is traffic. We do not have any responses from DOT, from what I understand. And don't blame that on you guys, that's DOT, obviously. I don't know what's going on there, but whatever. But, you know, the town of Hudson does have some concerns. I know that there was an issue regarding Page Road that they wanted, or they were recommending a warrant analysis for Page Road, and quite frankly, I mean, I don't know what is going on with Hudson. I mean, you guys have obviously been to the meetings, you've obviously had the opportunity to speak with them. But again, I only have what was read into the record last time, and they basically had those concerns. I think another concern was the emergency access piece, and I don't know where that stands. I'm a little hesitant. I understand you have an agreement with Penachuk and that you may have a verbal agreement, but we don't have a document. We don't have a letter from them in writing that basically states that, they are, they're supportive of the project. I would like to see that letter. I would like to know that at least Penachuk is on board. I mean, my question is, why is it taking so long for them to submit such a letter? But apparently they're busy. But I would like to see a letter, not just a verbal agreement. I would also like to see if there's going to be an emergency, if there's going to be a emergency access from the lobster boat, easement documents. Those are going to have to be reviewed by town council.
Okay, but let's just say there's not gonna be then. You don't have any requirement for a second access. That's not in your regulations,
Okay,
okay? So
so,
there is none. So if I don't make an agreement with them, there is none, and you don't have one, and you don't have anything in your regulations, any cul-de-sac lengths or anything like that. So if you're gonna tell me that I have to have a second egress, then every cul-de-sac that's coming in is gonna have a second egress.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm basically saying I don't have a document in front of me that outlines what that easement says.
Okay, so there won't be one then. Just
So you're
pretend there won't
gonna
be
get
one.
rid of it.
Well, you're gonna have one, but there won't be one right now.
Okay.
Okay, so we take that off the table, that there'll be a second egress, because you don't have it in your regulations. All right, but we know there's gonna be one, but the easements, will have that information.
If I may, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
a couple thoughts. I don't think it would be uncommon if there was a condition of planning board approval that prior to construction, a letter from Pennachuck Waterworks indicating that they will serve, or whatever the utility clearance letter is, will be provided for the project. Truthfully, sir, I didn't know we needed a letter. That's on me. We've had
Well-
discussions with Pennachuck, and I don't see that as being problematic. And then similarly with the easement documents, I think that a condition requiring that the private documents be provided to town council for review and approval prior to the plan being signed is fair comment. But Rick's point is, we're
Well,
we're
it's his
giving you
project.
something
I
that's
mean,
not required. I call it frosting on the cake, and knowing Rick, I know he's gonna continue to pursue that. So maybe the condition is that, if the emergency access easement is executed between both parties, a draft be submitted to town council for review and execution prior to the, signing of the plan.
Well, I'm just gonna tell you right now, and I'm gonna be upfront with you guys, I'm not inclined to approve anything conditionally, until there's actually a recorded plan. And, I mean, to allow the site work to commence, I should say, before that. I feel that if you guys are gonna do this, and you're gonna do it right, and I certainly support what you're doing, I think it's a great project. I just think there's a lot of missing end pieces here, and I mean, I've talked to Jay, and I'll let Jay comment on it, but I know in his site review, he doesn't recommend conditional approval, and quite frankly, reviewing what I've seen so far, I'm not inclined. Now, the board may have a different opinion, because the board's got to vote on it, but I'm not inclined to make a conditional approval until I have all of the documents that I need to be satisfied that we have everything we need for this plan. And I think that's due diligence on the part of the builder, and I think it's fairness on the part of the board to at least have all of the information that it needs, and not to sort of, because it seems like this is, being ramroded down our throat, and I don't like that. And quite frankly, I feel that that is not in the interest of Litchfield. It's not in the best interest of the builder, and it's not in the best interest of the town. So that is my personal opinion. With that said, as I said, if I'm going to vote tonight, I'm not inclined to vote on that until I want to see a letter from Pennachuck. Whether you decide to do the easement or the emergency access, I know that issue is outstanding with Hudson, and I know they are very concerned about it. So I know you're going to have to deal with them on that. There's a lot of pieces here. Jay, did you want to make a comment?
So before you get going, so do we need a letter from Public Service saying that they're gonna supply us with power? Do we need that? I don't wanna come back and.
No, well, I need something at least to say from Pennachuck, listen, this is what, that they are in support of the project, and that they have, we can be able to read something as a planning board
Okay.
and say, okay, yeah, this is what they're gonna do, great, perfect, we got the letter, we keep it in the file. I like to keep things ducks in a row, that's my thing.
So we'll do that. Do we need a letter from Public Service saying they're gonna give us power?
Jay, what do you think?
The letter from Pennachuck is in the regulations,
Okay,
so you have to have something demonstrating water supply.
Okay, do we need something for?
From the power.
It doesn't say you need something from the utility, but it does say
I
water
just
supply.
wanna
No,
be sure.
no.
But I
That's a
think,
good
I think the other
question.
reason why, I mean, that's always there, that's always in the regulations, that's an issue, that was in the first staff report, that was needed. But I think what makes it a little bit more of a concern is that normally that's just kind of, normal in the course, but we also know that Hudson has raised a specific issue related to water supply. And, so it kind of brings it more to the forefront that if there is no issue with water, then that ought to be something that could be produced pretty readily, we would think. And then that issue just goes away. We understand that there's a water study, as you mentioned earlier, that, you were also undertaking, which would be, I would imagine, helpful to see. I mean, just commenting on the traffic, and I totally sympathize with the difficulty in getting with DOT. But I wouldn't agree that the board has no responsibility to review traffic, and no jurisdiction over traffic issues or traffic impacts because it's a state road, because I still do think it's the responsibility of the planning board and within their purview to review traffic. Whether the board, feels that the issues that have been raised, warrant additional scrutiny is up to the board, but I think it's certainly within the jurisdiction of the board to review traffic.
Okay, yeah, we're fine with that. I mean, we're not telling you not to review the traffic, we're just telling
We
you
just
that.
need time to
you
look
can't
at it,
do
that's all.
anything
It's not like,
Until the state tells us what they want.
Yeah.
None of us,
and I understand that, I mean,
you
that's,
could tell us to put a light out there, and if the state says no, we can't put a light out there. So, I mean, we just have to wait and see what that is. So, and again, when it comes back, I guess the main thing here, one thing that I think I would like to come out of tonight with the board is, do you think we have to have the second access? We're gonna have it, but are you not gonna vote for this project until I have a second access? I think that's an important question we need to answer.
well, I think we may need it.
Right.
I mean,
Okay, but keep in mind, there's nothing in your regulations, and there's other projects coming to this town right now that aren't gonna have a second access, that as long as you treat us all the same, I'm fine with it.
I mean, I think, and I try to be fair.
I'm not saying anybody's not fair.
I'm trying to be fair.
Don't get me wrong.
No, and I understand where you're coming
As a
from.
board, you guys make decisions on what you think is the best for the town, and I agree with that. I'm not asking you to do anything different than that. All I'm asking you is treat us all the same. We all get treated the same.
Absolutely. So why don't we do this? I mean, I've talked. What do you guys think? I mean, you're here, you're the planning board. What do you guys want to do? I mean, I've made my case, my piece, but what do you guys think?
Well, having a building history in my past here, I understand the issue with the weather changing soon, and putting in brand new services and roads in the wintertime is not the easiest task. Economically and just labor-wise, it's not easy. In my opinion, with proper bonding and proper hold harmless for the town, in case things don't go as planned at all, I'd be more apt to agree to allow site work to start. But once again, proper bonding and proper hold harmless for the town. So we can't be held liable if things do not go as planned with Hudson or the state.
And I would never go against the town anyway.
Just you gotta dump money into this just in case something goes really bad, and
I agree.
so we're not on the hook here, so.
Okay. What do you think, Sam?
So regarding the second egress, I think it's really very important. I'm surprised there's nothing in our regulations that say that. That being said, to be fair to all the other developments, as you said, this isn't like a 5-house cul-de-sac. So it's different. So I'd really like to see that, but I'm not sure we have the authority to vote against it on those grounds. So I'd really have to look a little bit more into that. And yes, Jay.
I haven't exhaustively reviewed all of the regulations, but if I recall, the original suggestion to look at that secondary access came from the fire chief. And I would say that section 120.3 of the site plan regulations, emergency vehicle access, says provisions shall be made for emergency vehicle access to and throughout the site. The fire chief and police chief shall review all site plans to determine the adequacy of provisions for emergency vehicle access. So, while this is not a definitive requirement saying thou shalt have,
Yeah, so
or
that sounds to
a
me like,
length,
based on the fire chief's comments, we would have.
this is where
the
this
authority.
originally came from, so I think that's why he made that suggestion.
Yeah. So that is very important to me. The water, yes, I agree with Michael. I'd like to see something on the water. Anything, you know, we haven't seen a single thing, other than that you have a verbal, we've heard you have a verbal agreement. Though that's not as pertinent for me.
Kate, what do you think?
Well, I don't have an issue with starting site work, as Jeremy said. That's, you know, your risk that you're assuming, and if DOT changes their mind on that conceptual plan and say, we need that driveway, you know, 100 feet this way, and then you have to adjust where that loop starts or something that's something that you're willing to risk, then you're the landowner. I don't have an issue with that. The second egress is difficult. I know that we talked about it last time, asking for a written letter from the lobster boat owners to have something in writing. But it is difficult because we have other developments in town that do not have that second egress and have, I'm trying to think, Olson's was 100, how many units do they have there now? Isn't that over 100 units?
Yes.
Behind there?
Yes.
So without an ordinance, it's difficult to require that, but if we had a written agreement, it would definitely be easier to approve the plan. I don't think it's a good idea to conditionally approve the plan tonight because of not having at least something from DOT, or, I mean, we haven't seen any of the traffic study yet, and we need to at least see part of it. If it wasn't such a already congested area, maybe. I don't think it's a good idea to conditionally approve it without the traffic study completely finished.
Jared, what's your thought?
I think some level of site work, I don't oppose that specifically, but it's definitely very important that certain areas are not touched, as was discussed earlier. With the lack of water resources, it's possible that without extensive infrastructure changes, they wouldn't be able to support 173 units. So it may not support as much. So there are definitely assumptions that are being made with that. So if we do approve something, it would definitely require the proper conditions and bonding, all that stuff.
We also haven't seen anything written from Hudson. I
Yeah,
would have
that's the
thought
other
that
thing, too.
you would have been able to sit before their board by this point.
Pardon?
I thought you would have been able to sit before Hudson's board by now, and I know that's like I said, this is all out of your control. It's not anything that you're
But
doing
again,
wrong.
if Hudson doesn't approve it, it still doesn't affect what we're doing here. If Hudson never approves their portion of it, we're not, nothing's happening. It's not gonna go. It's just not gonna do it.
Because the both have to be in, yeah.
Well,
Well, they
and
don't
they've-
go together. I mean, what we're doing in Hudson really is just some,
There's no residential
There's no
units or.
residential.
Right, it's
yeah.
not, it's.
it's only
storage
something to
and
enhance
stuff, yeah.
what's in Litchfield. If they don't approve it, we're not gonna have it.
Yeah.
That's
But
all.
we do have regional impact comments from them that haven't been addressed.
Well,
at this
again,
point.
102 is the state, so we gotta let the state deal, we get to see what they say, you know? I mean, the original impact is, yeah.
I'd
there
like
is
to-
a- there- But
I'd like to,
it's 102.
I'd like to be clear. It's our opinion that the regional impact comments, they made some comments about traffic in the town of Litchfield. Okay, and again, as Rick just said, we're all kind of waiting for DOT. And I believe the other comment they had to do with commissioning this water study. Mr. Chair, you alluded to emergency access in a Hudson comment. I don't recall seeing that. It may be in there. But I don't know that the genesis was through Hudson. I think it was more locally with the Litchfield Fire Department.
I think Hudson's concern was how does emergency access get to the Hudson portion? That was their concern.
Yeah, and we're not proposing anything through those businesses in Hudson.
Right, but I think the concern that I heard from Hudson was there are buildings that will be in Hudson.
Sure.
How our emergency response? Yeah,
The,
obviously, that's through Litchfield, but that's usually something that communities discuss.
Interestingly, their fire department, their fire chief said, who responds? And then I called Litchfield, and Litchfield said, since most of the projects, Litchfield will respond. And Hudson was fine with that, so. I guess my point is, I think Hudson's is, they made the comments about 102, and then it was commissioning of this water. I wasn't aware of anything else. We've gone through their peer review process, and we're right at the front door. We got their engineer to sign off on stormwater, so, I think, when you zero right in on 10 acres of, 3 outdoor storage buildings and an outdoor parking, it's fairly benign in Hudson.
Mr. Karen,
No, yeah, I had one very minor issue that was outstanding, dealing with the driveway and the road profile they presented. They match the existing shoulder out there, which is represented as a 10% slope, which would not meet the town regulation. I don't think the state would allow it either, so that was one comment that I had that is still unresolved, because we threw it onto the DOT
This is the
review of all the improvements on the state highway. But there was one small section there that had a 10% profile on it, right at the intersection.
It had,
On the state shoulder.
on the state
On the
shoulder,
state shoulder.
Lou, the state shoulder had 3 inches on the shoulder and 4 feet.
That's all I'm saying is, Mike,
So it's 10%.
I'm assuming that it will be addressed when the state
Yeah.
gets involved. I think
Just
it
to
was-
remind everybody of the state process, this first bite at the apple they get is the review of the study, the conceptual plan, similar to the gas station project we had. And then with that nod that the study is good and the contemplated improvements are good, we've got to go ahead and do the formal design of that left turn pocket, and that'll get picked up as part of Lou's comment there. But that's an existing condition, Lou.
Oh, I understand, but I'm just saying, there was one comment, I looked at it, and it wouldn't meet even town regulations, so. I expect that it will be resolved when the DOT does their stuff.
okay. Anything else from anybody? So at this time, I am gonna open it up to public comment. I know there's no members of the public here, I understand that, but I have to procedurally do that. So is there any members of the public that wish to comment on this project this evening? And seeing that there's nobody here for public comment, I will close public comment on that issue. Okay. So I'm bringing it back to the board. So, there's a couple things you could do. We can obviously ask the applicant if they're willing to submit a letter from Pennachuck. We can see what happens with DOT, and we can continue this hearing to a date and time certain. Or does the board wish to do anything this evening in terms of conditional approval? So I guess it's up to you guys what we want to do. As I've already stated my case, I'm not inclined, I'm just gonna say it again, for the record, I'm not inclined to grant conditional approval tonight, until I see a little bit more information. Pennachuck being the letter from Pennachuck, and I would like to see something, if there is anything from Hudson, documents from Hudson, to kind of see where they're at.
Well, we can't get started.
No, is it really a condition of approval if the letter starts just giving us approval?
But, you know, that's my opinion. You guys, obviously, you know, have to vote on it, so I'm just throwing it out there. I think it's due diligence. We have to make sure that everything is, we have our ducks in a row. I feel that, you know, I think it's an easy sell. I mean, if we get all the documents, if the you know, we have all the information we need, then I think we're gonna be a little bit more comfortable approving this project, where we don't have anything right now from DOT, and I really can't look at a document because we don't have it, and I don't have anything from Pennachuck. I mean, I know, and I trust, believe me, and I say this in sincerity, I know you do a great job in town, you do great work, Rick. But I'm not saying that you don't. I'm just saying that I just want to make sure that for procedural purposes and for this board, that we have all of our information that we need to make the right decision or to make the proper decision. And that usually comes in the form of documents. So I just
Can I
want
ask
to.
a question? Can, instead of a conditional approval, can we have an approval to move dirt?
So you mean sort of like excavation or
Yeah,
something?
excavation, that you know that we're doing excavation. Is that,
That was my question, honestly. I don't know
What do you think, Jay? I mean, is
legal-wise
that-
how that
Do you think
works.
it,
I think if, you know, Jeff is okay with that as a code enforcement officer and they have their AOT.
yeah,
'cause
right, and we have our
You would have to have
Okay.
an alteration of.
We have to
terrain.
have that.
right,
Then I think if the board understood the scope of it, I think that that would be okay.
then it would be on the condition that the building inspector is in support of it, and they have the AOT permit, obviously.
They have the
they
AOT
that,
permit.
So,
The building, yeah, as, you know, the building inspector as code enforcement officer.
right,
If he were okay with it. And I think it was limited to the scope that was discussed.
right. If that's what your plan.
So move dirt and remove the old buildings?
I get, it's almost all foundations. I'm not taking down the structure that's there, but I'm
Just pull.
taking out all the foundations that are out there.
Okay. So, if we want to vote, we can certainly do that. Yes, Lou, I'm sorry.
You're, this a borrowed job, Rick?
Anything from the easement, they can get the code enforcement.
That's fine, 2 weeks.
Rick, is this a borrow project you're bringing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, when you think in terms of excavation, like an excavation permit, it's typically you're digging stuff up and you're shipping it off-site. In this case here, they're not. They're just gonna start moving topsoil, putting it in a big pile, probably wrap it in
Okay.
silt fence and,
Yeah. Oh, we do everything
And
the
demo.
way it's supposed to. I mean,
And
You-
demo.
You'd pull demo permits, I'm assuming.
yeah.
Could I offer this as a suggestion, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
I just chatted with Rick. We'd be willing to postpone for 2 weeks. Is that your next meeting, Jay?
It's 3 weeks from today. I
Yeah.
believe.
So remember that, John?
2 weeks is the third Tuesday of the month. We don't meet on the third Tuesday of the
Yeah, I'm
month. I mean,
No.
sorry, the fifth
Fifth.
Tuesday of the month.
gonna miss that one
So it
too.
would be the November.
Oh, there's 5 Tuesdays in October?
Yeah, so we skipped,
So
yeah.
I guess
So it would be 3 weeks from
Be
today.
November.
if we can move dirt, we'll come back at the next meeting with the Pennachuck letter and that stuff.
Yeah, I was
Just-
gonna suggest, right. they
It's just
need-
the time of the year. It's just,
No, I
we're
understand.
not gonna get these days
understand.
back.
I get it.
What I was gonna say, Mr. Chairman, the first meeting in November,
Yeah,
Pennachuck, we'll work through the list if you could speak to your code enforcement officer. We hope to have the AOT at that permit as well. And, you know, I think you'll be in a more comfortable position. I worry a little bit about getting to the finish line with DOT.
so
That's nothing,
maybe what we do is we give them, obviously, another, what, couple of weeks?
3 weeks.
And see if something happens. If something doesn't happen, then I guess we can, I don't know.
well, if I may, Mr. Chairman, if something doesn't happen, and we've checked off a number of these things we've discussed this
Well,
evening,
that's-
you may feel a little bit more comfortable, and, you know, maybe we could put forth some sort of
Yeah.
condition
I
that
mean,
you,
but again,
language that you might
the
feel
only,
comfortable.
my only dilemma with that is that we don't have, it's just we don't have anything. And
Yeah.
I think we need to review what DOT has. So, I mean, I think we have a right to do that. So that's just my only concern about that.
We don't
but-
think that's an unfair position, by the
No,
way.
not at all.
No, okay.
We want you to be involved in it.
Yeah.
We just
We
wanna-
need, well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I think it's important, right? I mean,
Very important.
yeah, okay. So what are you thinking in terms of, you want to come back? Is that what you're proposing? What are you
Well,
looking to do?
I'm asking if we can start excavation,
So you're going to do the digging,
just start excavation, as long as Jeff's fine with it. You're-
right, on the condition that the building or code enforcement officer
You're
is
just,
fine with it?
you're gonna, you say that we're allowed to do dirt. You guys are aware that we can do excavation, okay?
Okay.
Then we can start that. We'll come back the first meeting.
Okay.
Have our Pennachuck letter.
Okay.
Maybe we'll have something from the DOT.
Maybe, I mean, you don't know, it could
You
happen.
know?
It could happen.
At the end of the day, whatever the DOT wants, we're gonna have to do. The project's not gonna happen.
Well, I
Two
understand
nods
that,
in a row, but
yeah,
it's gonna happen, and
In some form.
right.
at some point, and we're gonna, whatever they decide they want, we're gonna have to do.
Right.
We know that.
And I just don't want it, you know, if they say something or do something and you're working on something and then they make some decision, it's like, I just don't want to put you in a situation where you're going to be like,
You won't put me in this board's not gonna put me in a situation that I'm not prepared to do. That the DOT wants or somebody wants us to do.
Okay.
I mean, this is what,
Jay, what's your thought?
Hey, I was just gonna ask a question on the traffic, 'cause I mean, as you know, pretty consistently since the first review, the issue of the potential conflicts with the left-hand turn movements out of the project and with Cutler Road has been raised. It was raised by our transportation planner, I raised it in my memo, Hudson's raised it, so it's been that's pretty consistently been an issue. We haven't had a presentation from your traffic engineer, because the thinking has been we have to talk to DOT. But usually we do, right? Usually in a larger project, there's an opportunity to talk to the traffic engineer, and that kind of hasn't happened. So I guess I'm kind of wondering we're being very deferential to what DOT wants, but has your traffic engineer, given the fact that this issue has been consistently raised, looked at any potential solutions other than what's been proposed, which is really no addressing of that potential conflict at all? I guess that's just a question.
you can come to the next meeting and discuss it with you.
Okay.
You can bring them.
I mean, at least for me, it just might be helpful because that issue keeps coming up and it just hasn't been addressed at all. And it seems as though what was initially proposed, at least by all the reviewers, wasn't viewed as adequate to address the concerns. So I guess part of my concern in just deferring to DOT is we're not even a part of that conversation. So I don't even know to what extent DOT would even be aware that this is an issue that's been raised locally. So I guess that's just kind of on my mind is, I mean, it's a question, I'm not suggesting that we just have the traffic engineer come for that sake, although if the board wants to have a conversation, that'd be great, but I just wonder whether there has been any, has your engineer looked at any alternatives to address the issues that have been raised?
And there is
The short answer is yes. Not sure, it's always, we find ourselves in a pickle here, to engage in a meaningful traffic discussion where the ruling body is not here as well, so we find ourselves in a situation where we could talk all night about traffic and it's still going to come down to how they perceive it. Jay, I'll say this. We looked at moving our entrance. It doesn't work at our front door. We lose units. We lose the ability to do a commercial development out front in the future by having kind of a swagged S-shaped, very tight S-shaped, moving over to Cutler. Okay? So that does not work for us. I will tell you that this evening. Aligning Cutler to our front door, we have concerns because it takes it needs not only the DOT property across the street, but another property. And so that's a very high altitude response to that. Now, is there something in between possibly, and Bob Bollinger would be in a better position to discuss that. Right. But we have looked at it.
Yeah, I think the concern, Mr. Chair and members, was that we don't want to engage into a disagreement with what your staff was proposing if it's not even going to be on the agenda for the DOT. The DOT says we don't want that either.
Yeah.
Then we don't want to be fighting with you unnecessarily. But the short answer to Jay's question is, we've looked at it hard, and it doesn't work. But I think we owe it to you to come and explain why it doesn't work, and that's what we'll do next meeting. Our traffic engineer will come and explain how we looked at, why he doesn't, it's just, sometimes you don't want to be insulting if you don't have to be.
Right.
But I think you're owed answers to those questions. They were, when you raised them, we all looked at it as a team, and it was legitimate questions. Gee, that's a legitimate question. Why not tee up the intersection? And after thorough review, the answer was, it doesn't work. It's not good. It doesn't work for us. It's a problem. We don't even own the land on the other side of Cutler, so we don't know if we can do anything. DOT owns some land, but that's in their decision whether they want to relocate the road. Maybe the answer is, we leave it to DOT, but we're willing to put some money towards it or something. But,
Right.
But let's come and explain that to you.
I guess just
Let the traffic engineer explain that.
to follow the thought, yeah, that I think would be helpful, but just to kind of follow along that thought, when I'm thinking about prior examples, like the gas station, there was a proposal for improvements, then I think there was a general consensus that, yeah, that works. And, Lou had a chance to look at it, he felt
But
it
yeah,
worked.
but
I
in
think
that case,
board
the
did.
DOT, we were able to,
Right, we
They-
did
I think they
have
had made a decision.
DOT input, but by the time, when that went to DOT, I think there was just a general consensus that we have a solution that works. Corning Farm was another example of there were concerns, there was an opportunity to go to DOT, Lou had some thoughts and suggestions, that was reviewed. So
Nothing happened, they didn't do anything, though.
whether they did something yet or not, there was a consensus as to what the
No, and I agree.
proposal was. I think that's the concern here, is that there is an issue and it's just completely unresolved and unaddressed.
Yep.
And so it's harder to say, let's just do whatever DOT says when it's an open.
No, and I want everybody to, I'm not asking anybody not to join in and what your thoughts are there. I just can't get them to tell us what they want so we can bring it to you. But, and we want to get going. I mean, that's
right,
that's all it is. It's not,
I understand, I understand.
we don't know what they want.
Yeah.
And-
Yeah, Lou,
Has there been any thought of maybe doing a traffic analysis, a intersection analysis, as if Cutler Road got shifted to see what the results are? Because that may tell us something.
I don't know that, Lou. I'd have to ask Bob.
Because you have traffic data for everything.
Yeah,
Not like you gotta do counts anymore.
yeah, I don't. We know that we have to do something out there, we just don't know what. We agree we're gonna do something out there, we just don't know what. We're not, you know, it's the same thing with this second access, that we're gonna have the emergency access. If we don't have, they don't have their plan tied down, we can't, their engineering's not coming fast enough. I can tell you we're gonna have it because we're giving them a water main to go through their property. So they're saving a lot of money by me running the water main through their property that they would have to do. So it's gonna happen. It just, they haven't tied down where it's going, so we don't have an agreement, you know. I mean, I can give you a piece of paper that said we're gonna try to make it work, but what's that gonna do if we don't have a tied down easement? So till they have a plan or close to approval, we're not gonna have a tied down easement. I'm telling you, we're gonna have it, we just haven't got there yet. We're ahead of them, we're way ahead of them, but we will have it.
So, I mean, I guess the question is the board comfortable with doing a conditional approval that the applicant can do, you know, like excavation of the property?
Site prep, I'm fine with all that.
Site, and, you know, on the, you know, obviously on the blessing of the code enforcement officer and the, obviously having the AOT permit, as condition,
And we post the bond.
and the posting of the bond.
And
Would we-
hold harmless.
Would we want to restrict that to areas a certain distance from the questionable area near the road? Because
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, what is it,
Yeah,
Kenworth?
we can call out Kenworth and so forth and so on, if we need to.
Really?
The only name I could get them to approve.
He's going towards the water main no matter what, so.
I gave them all equipment names and they approved it. I probably gave them 50 names before they approved it.
I can't read that second one.
And
Yeah, I give it to you,
I
Jim.
gave them equipment names being wise at that point.
Go outside, we have the yard.
You ready, Jay? Okay, portion of Kenworth Street, Roscoe Way, Ham Court, Nordberg Drive, and Road Tech Way. In those, sir, Mr. O'Connell, are the areas Rick identified earlier. All of that. Yeah, it's part of Nordberg Drive itself. Yeah, that-
So would we approve a excavation permit or
Is that a waiver?
waiver?
It's really more of, a lot of towns are saying you can't do any excavation related to development without our consent. So it's really, we're just looking for consent
Consent.
from the board that if we start out there, the board's not gonna say, hold on, we don't even have a plan yet. So I think my suggestion would be if you had a vote that the board consents to excavation beginning on the following conditions. Then that would allow, your code enforcement, officer to feel comfortable. And, know that the board's not against, if he made a decision, the board wouldn't be against him.
And we,
I hate to have you make a conditional approval on a vote of the plan, that's probably premature here, but I think a vote saying we consent to excavation being allowed prior to any plan approval.
and would we want to list the areas adjacent to the roads that were just listed as the places where
I'd include the word site demolition too.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
foundation out there.
Old,
is-
yeah.
This is gonna be a long
It's
motion.
structure.
I think Rick's gonna be in for a little
Right,
surprise when he
site
says-
work and excavation.
Excavation, excavation.
Right.
Okay. So, does anyone want to entertain the motion, or?
I think I got it written
You
down.
got
All right. I'll make a motion to, that the planning board consents to the site work and excavation of the designated portions of Kentworth Street, Roscoe Way, Ham Court, did I hear that right?
Ham.
Ham Court, Nordberg
Drive.
Drive, and Road Tech Way, condition on the approval of the building inspector, the AOT permit, it's properly bonded, and demo permits are approved, and legal agreement to hold the town harmless prior to any plan approval.
I second the motion.
I have a motion by Kate, I have a second by Jeremy. Is there any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 5-0-0. Okay,
Hopefully that made some sense.
all right, so you got that.
So, you're gonna come up with a bond amount?
Okay.
Soon, if you can get that to me, as soon as you can, I'll have a bond the next day.
You base that on lot area, Lou?
Excuse me?
You base that on area of disturbance, or?
No, well, to some extent, yes, but one of the requirements I always like to see is you're not removing topsoil, so we don't have to bring stuff in. And it's mostly equipment rental to move stuff around.
I mean, I can get
Loam
you
and
that.
seed,
The reason I'm asking, I can take this plan, dash in that area we just described,
that
and
would be helpful.
give you an acreage.
That would be helpful.
So,
Based on other recent bonds I've done, it'll be less than 100,000. Order of magnitude, probably closer to 50.
Make it 200, I don't care.
Put that in the minutes?
Doesn't matter.
We've never had to use one, so.
So-
One in another town, though.
you folks wanna, I mean, obviously in terms of next meeting, what are you looking at? 2 weeks, a week, what are we?
Your next available meeting.
Next available meeting. Well, the only thing is, I mean, I know we have November 7th, we have a pretty full agenda. We have we have a site plan for something, and there's something else.
Subdivision.
Yeah,
You probably don't want to be in the room.
yeah. Well,
Had a
you
full
can
house
if you want,
last
it's up to you.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously,
Parking.
the 21st would probably be better for us, anyway.
Yeah, and that'd be more time for,
Yeah,
Right. Would the
Things,
21st work?
When did you say?
the 21st of November.
Does that work?
It's like the third week.
Yeah.
Just over a month.
Why don't you put us on first?
Yeah,
The 21st.
21st.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Get started, and we have.
We'll get it all buttoned up.
I'll be buttoned up by then for sure.
Okay.
Unless you wanna, hopefully we'll be talking about impact fees too. I don't know if you wanna stay for that.
Yeah.
We are gonna need an extension.
Okay. So, yeah, we're gonna have to vote to move this to a date and time certain, or continue this to a date and time certain. Does anyone want to entertain a motion?
I'll make a motion to continue this site plan until November 21st.
Okay. I have a motion by Jared. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Same thing.
Second by Sam. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion to continue, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 5-0-0.
Thank you.
Okay, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We send you a letter on 60 days.
Yes, that'd be
That
awesome.
would be very helpful.
Who do you want that to go to? Jay or to Mr. Croto?
Letter to Jay.
Sure. You can CC me if you want. but that's
Yeah.
fine. That's fine.
Either way. We'll get to the right place.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If some miracle happens, you hear from DOT, you'll let us know.
We're gonna hear something.
Okay.
Gentlemen, Rick will be done with this project by November 21st.
Okay, the next item
Start this summer.
on the agenda is the floodplain changes to Litchfield's regulations. Jay, I'll turn it over to you.
I mean, these are really very straightforward. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to look at them, but these really come directly from state review of our floodplain regulations. I think most of them are, you know, I'm trying to search for the right word, administrative in nature, but these are really, of minor substantive impact, I guess I would say. And they've done this for every community in the state, so pretty much everyone has received a list, and the idea is to keep us compliant so that people in Litchfield can get flood insurance.
Okay.
So if that makes sense, then we would want to move it to a first public hearing would be the.
Okay, and I know you gave us a sample.
There's that's a sample warrant that was also provided. It's not pressing that has to happen at our next meeting. It certainly could. Our deadline, really, we would want to. We could certainly do it sooner. We wouldn't want to wait beyond the 19th of December. Okay.
Well, does anybody want to make a motion to put it to public hearing?
I'm just gonna because it's just the site plan regulations.
Zoning.
Zoning.
Oh, it is
Zoning.
Yeah, zoning.
Oh, okay, so,
So that's why I was saying the 19th of December would be the last day we'd want to do the first hearing, because usually we like to schedule two. We might be able
Okay.
to do it the first meeting in January, actually.
See you later.
and,
Thank you, Lou.
So I'll get the bond done as soon as he gets to me, but I don't see an issue with it.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So, I mean, and we could
Guess-
always, well, go ahead.
Well, our next thing on the agenda is the home occupation ordinance, so I would
Right,
just
that
like
would be
to
the same thing.
keep them onto
Together?
the same.
Together.
I would
Okay,
think,
so
yeah.
we'll just table this for a second, and then we'll go to that next. So I guess, Jay, I'll turn that over to you.
All right, so hopefully everybody's had a chance to see this one. I mean, really, you've seen this before. We've talked about it a few times. We had a workshop on it. And basically, this is the same as what we had talked about last year. But there was a lot of controversy around the firearms portion, which was going to be a, conditional use, or a heavier burden, I guess I would say. And so we pulled that language because of the concerns related to it. And as you just may recall, just briefly, the way this is structured is we have a general section that talks about requirements for all home occupations. And then we have a section 504.02 that is home occupations allowed by right, which is something we hadn't previously defined. And then we have special requirements, well, we have home occupations that require planning board approval in general, and then special requirements for two categories: family child care facilities and adult daycare facilities. So that was kind of the essence of it. But this is something I think we've talked about and reviewed a few times. So again, if there's an interest, the idea would be to move it to a first public hearing.
Anybody have any questions about it? Have an opportunity to take a look at it.
So the only thing that's really changed is you took out the language about the firearms.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay.
Originally, there were 3 sections that had special requirements, and so that came out.
Okay.
And if I remember correctly, the last time we discussed this, there was a lot of discussion around 504.03, number 5, whether or not to include that 26,000-pound limit
Yes.
for business vehicles.
That
So,
was a point of
just-
discussion.
Yeah, so just anyone, if that was an issue, I just wanted that to be known. And I think you probably answered this already, but the prohibited uses, when it says, motor vehicle and machinery sales, manufacturing of firewood, that's as a continued business. That's
Yes.
not a homeowner
That's right,
selling their car or chopping a tree down and, selling the wood from it. Okay.
exactly. Yeah, and two other areas, I know we had a lot of conversation around, one was landscaping, and we wound up, that was a prohibited use initially, and that was pulled, so that's no longer prohibited. And then another issue I know that we had conversation around, and there was no change to it, was whether or not we ought to have special requirements for food preparation. We don't, but that was a discussion point.
I think we said as long as it adheres to state requirements,
Right,
right?
state
That's kind of what we
licensing
need to, and
requirements,
and same thing with landscaping, is that what?
Yeah, I think
That-
it was just a general sense of, there's no reason to prohibit landscaping so long as they comply with everything else.
Okay. Because is there still a requirement about storage of landscaping
Yes.
materials?
Outdoor storage, I think, generally,
Yeah, screen from view.
right.
Okay. Do we, is that like a fire hazard or anything? I know that those can, like, you see the mounds of mulch steaming.
Smoldering,
I don't know if,
It can combust.
they
But
can
Okay.
combust, that's true.
It's probably not our place to rule on this because you can't really control it. They usually turn it intentionally to prevent this, so.
well, my question is just, do we need input from, like, fire safety, and fire and police on this? Or maybe we just solicit that for the public hearing?
Yeah, we could do that.
Does this, I see like storage of materials and equipment is, permitted, with board approval. And you can't have visible, things can't be visible, but certain things can smell. Would that
That's true.
be something that would just be addressed on a, plan-by-plan basis, during the board approval?
I think because agriculture is allowed throughout town, I don't see how that would be any different.
Cause yeah, I've read stories of,
But it's something to consider.
Right. I mean, there is, under 50401, there's general requirements for all home occupations, and that does address odor.
It does.
okay, that should be good then.
Okay.
And obviously, first public hearing, we can still make changes, after that.
This looks okay to me. Maybe, does anyone else have anything?
I think it looks
Any
pretty
changes to
good,
make?
unless anybody else has anything. So you wanna make a motion to go?
I'll make a motion to move both this, home occupation ordinance change and the, I'm forgetting what it was called, floodplain ordinance, ordinance changes to public hearing.
First public hearing.
First public hearing.
Okay.
I'll
Do I
second
need
that.
a date for
December
that?
5th.
December 5th, I'm thinking.
Would December 5th work for folks?
Probably best, yeah.
For you guys, okay.
It
For
gets us
December.
past the couple of applications
Yeah.
that are coming in November, so.
Okay.
We'll avoid the tsunami. Yes. Okay, so we have a motion by Kate, I have a second by Jared. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained, motion passes 5-0-0. Okay, thank you. And thank you, Joe. Okay, next item is committee reports. Do we have any reports from any committees? I know Kim Queenan isn't here this evening, but I guess I'll start with you, Jeremy. Anything from the
We have not
economic
met again
development?
yet, so it'll
Okay.
be in about 2 weeks.
Sam, anything on the energy?
Energy Committee meets a week from today on October 24th at the fire station at 6 p.m. We're still talking with Community Power, it's a third party, works between town and the supplier.
Okay.
And I saw on the website, there's a splash page for the, survey.
Yes, fill out the survey. Go online, fill out the survey, or go to town hall. There are pamphlets, trifold surveys. let us know what you want from the Energy Committee.
Okay, thank you. CIP met last night at the fire station, went through the sort of finalizing the draft for the priority of projects. We're gonna have another meeting, was it the 6th of November or the 16th? I can't remember.
I think it was the 6th.
I think it's the 6th too. So it'll be the 6th of November, which is a Monday. And I think we are meeting at the fire station or town hall. Do you remember, Jay?
I think we were able to meet at town hall because it was our regular.
Got it. Okay, so it was town hall. So we're going to it'll be at 6:30 here in town hall. Conservation Commission meeting is coming.
November 2nd.
Actually, yeah, that's right. November 2nd. So that is here.
No, fire station.
Fire station at 6:30. Okay. And believe it or not, folks, I actually got something from the Lower Merrimack Local River Advisory Committee.
Wow.
They are going to have a meeting November 2nd. Just confirm that. And I think it's going to be in Nashua. Yes. There's an AOT application to review. It's November 2nd to discuss the application and other business. And I think they hold their meetings at the Nashua City Hall, so I think that's where we're meeting. And that's going to be at 7 o'clock that night. I have nothing else. Do you have anything, Kate?
Budget committee has reviewed the town portion of the budget, and been able to ask our questions. And this Thursday at 7 p.m. is the first town voting. So we'll be going through the budget again and making, tweaks as the committee sees fit.
Okay, great. All right. Approval of the October 3rd, 2023 minutes. Did anybody have an opportunity to take a look at those? Have any questions?
Yeah, I noticed that Kate Stevens was absent, but the approval of meeting minutes,
That page 1, that should come out.
yeah, it has, Kate Stevens listed as the motion, person who made the motion.
Well, on the September 5th, you're talking about, on the first page?
Yeah, first page of the
I think that was a
October.
cut and paste error. That doesn't even belong there.
Oh, yep,
So,
I see.
so we'd have to just have that removed. Yeah.
And then right under that, and applications, I sent some corrections to Matt, and he got those. But there's one more, and I sent it tonight, just to tell the board. The landowners are John and T-A-E Nelson. It's not John, it's John and. And that's the only thing that I missed sending him.
Anything else? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve them as amended. Well, I'll make a motion then. I'll make a motion that we approve the October 3rd, 2023 minutes as amended.
A second.
A second by Sam. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, abstained.
Abstain.
Motion passes 4-0-1. Okay. Any other business this evening? Jay, do you have anything?
Just one. I am reminded by your CIP comments that we are supposed to have the public hearing
Oh,
on the
yes.
CIP on November 16th.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me. I forgot about that. Yeah, we did talk about that last night. So the public hearing for the CIP will be part of the planning board meeting,
Did I say 16th? 21st.
21st of November.
Happy hearing.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna give you a presentation of the capital improvement plan. We did that last year, and we'll go over the priority of rankings and what the board's consensus was on that,
It's a hearing.
recommendations.
Yeah, it's a public hearing.
you'll have an opportunity to comment on that, so, okay?
What are the steps after that?
Then it goes to the Board of Selectmen
To
for
approve.
recommendations, and they're the ones that have to decide whether they want to recommend anything that's on that plan being implemented.
So the plan board will make a recommendation and the board of selectmen will adopt it.
Okay, okay,
Yeah, we're only recommending, it's just, that's the process.
yep, okay.
Okay. All right. Joan, do you have anything else?
No, I don't.
Okay. And I don't have anything else. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Second.
Second by, motion by Kate, second by Sam. All in favor? Aye. Those opposed, abstained. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you for joining us this evening, and we will see you on November 7th. Have a good night.